Took me about 30 minutes to warm up for today's session. Just had no mobility. The whole hamstring, adductor, glute, lower back, that whole complex, which basically needs to be long for you to squat to depth, was just bound up like nothing. And I saw it coming. Every time I do, heavy posterior chain work, like, the barbell stuff, the block pulls, the rack pulls, the deadlifts. Every time I do volume on that, I always, struggle to squat the following day. It's just all of that locks up. I'm sure you can squat to parallel with no problems, but these tissues on the back of us need to be long, and so when you don't have length in that whole hamstring, adductor, glute, lower back as well, if you want to add to it, if you don't have length to that, you won't be able to flex your hip. If you think about it, all of that stuff is on the other side, and all that stuff needs to let go for you to reach active hip flexion. If it doesn't, what happens? You've got butt wink. It's the telltale sign of bad mobility on the day. So in order for you to overcome that, you keep your lower back straight, but then you see yourself leaning over like a freaking table. You're like horizontal with the damn ground trying to squat. And the reason why we lean over is to kind of have weight over that, center of mass, so we can get that tissue to finally give. This is why a lot of us, when we first get in the gym, we struggle to squat the damn bar. But when we put 60 kilos on, 100 kilos on, then that weight starts to compress some of these tissues into length. And that's all well and good, but, I've kind of always, aimed for squatting perfectly with the empty bar, because that tells me that the tissue wants to be in some of these positions. Yeah, you can load, compress, and force that tissue to kind of go into that range of motion, but it's not exactly what we want, right? You want to be a balanced athlete, and this is the trouble with periodization. This is the trouble with, training multiple lifts, focusing on multiple lifts at a time, because some of these things are going to play difficult for other lifts. When I put the deadlift volume in, the rack pulls that I did yesterday, this morning I woke up, my whole freaking posterior chain, literally neck down, was tight. My traps were tight. Lats, I was feeling my lats. I'm still feeling my lats. It's incredible how much I feel my lats when I'm doing these rack pulls. The erectors are tight. Everything's tight. I knew today was going to be impossible to squat. And so I walked in the gym, walked over to that, stretching area, whatever those, long continuous rack that they have, like you can do pull-ups and whatever. I went over there, they had a barbell there. I didn't want to occupy a whole squat rack, just messing around like for an hour so I can open up my hips. So I didn't do that. I went over to that section, the green area with the fake grass on it. And I ended up doing one set after another of just stiff-legged RDLs. I was just trying to kind of get that tissue to warm up so it can give, so I can squat. I ended up doing 10 sets of 20 with just an empty bar. I didn't want to load the posterior chain again and, cost myself for tomorrow's rack pull session. I did that. Basically, I did it for nothing. The tissue did not want to go. The hamstrings were so damn tight. If I was to keep my back perfectly straight, so I'm not talking about rounding my spine over, just perfect flat back and just hip hinging in the middle, I was barely reaching my knees. Now think about how tight that posterior chain is if I can barely reach my knees. Obviously, if I collapse my lower back and my thoracic spine, I could get down to kind of like, mid-shin, maybe the shoelaces, something like that. But, I remember back in the day, I was telling you guys, if I walk in the gym and I do a standing, just a reach test to my feet, just purely on that test, I will know if I have the ability to squat. Because that test kind of tells me if I have enough length in that hamstring, adductor, glute, all of that stuff that needs to be long for us to kind of flex the damn hip, right? So, basically today, I didn't even want to squat, man. I just knew from the tightness, just walking around, that it was going to be a tough session. So after that, I decided to go to the leg press, and you saw me do the leg press. I ended up doing like 10 sets of 10 as well with that, man. I think I had 4 plates on, 4 apiece, 4 a side, which is 160 kilos. And I don't know whether you guys saw or you recognized, I had my feet quite high up because I was trying to kind of bias that glute, hamstring, adductor kind of complex just for it to let go. Eventually, I had enough blood in there. I went over to the front squat and ended up doing 10 doubles. Now, these 10 doubles felt okay finally, but oh my Lord, basically more than half of the damn session was me warming up, man. It was just like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I ate up 2 hours of a damn training session. I swear, like, I spent 30 minutes with the damn stiff-legged RDLs. Before that, I was kind of on the floor, kind of trying to stretch, trying to do anything. And then I ended up doing stiff-legged RDLs. Then I went over to the leg press. I'm sure I was an hour before I even touched the squat. And then I did 10 doubles. That didn't take a lot of time. I was basically having 2-minute breaks in between. I just banged it out. And that was the session. It's incredible. It's incredible how one day affects the next. And I'm supposed to come in tomorrow and do the RDLs again. This is where like this compounding fatigue kind of comes in. This is where the professionals separate themselves from these average Joes from their home garages. Doing the session alone is not enough. I think we have to stretch. We have to do this all the other prehab stuff, stretching, mobility work, all of that. Because when you see some of these guys, man, like I keep talking about Dmitry Klokov, man, but all of these guys that you're talking about, I don't care who wins the gold medal. If you're going to the Olympics, you're pretty much in the same boat. All of these guys are freaking gymnasts, man. They're so freaking long. They're just getting into a position is not a problem for them. And your Olympic weightlifting is especially high bar squatting, ATG squatting, the thing that I love the most. It's about positioning. It's not just about raw strength. You need to be in an optimal position, because if that bar drifts over your damn toes, man, you're not in the position to exert power or force into that bar. Yeah, you can exert power into that bar, but you're leaving kilos and kilos off the bar because you are leveraged in a bad position. It's kind of like a spanner in a bolt. If you have a really short bolt to it, you got to apply a shit ton of force to it to turn that thing. But if you've got a long spanner, all of a sudden it's working. Similar way, like you want to make sure the muscle is geared correctly, so it doesn't have to fight a freaking lever that's 100 meters long. That's kind of the whole idea. We're just machines we're just forklifts trying to work with physics to get this weight up. So today was kind of, back in the day I used to get frustrated on these days. I used to be like, God damn it, like why is this happening to me? But after a bit of time, you kind of realize that it's all kind of self-induced and it's all part of the puzzle. This tightness didn't come up. The meteor didn't hit you on the head and all of a sudden you're tight. There are things you did that cause that tightness. And it's kind of like your body's almost itching you to do certain things. Today I was messing around with a bunch of different exercises. I think the leg press did a lot of benefit to me today because I could basically just put my feet up really high up on that plate and basically do this like weird leg press where it's not about quads at all. It's kind of like a glute kind of exercise. And that whole glute adductor hamstring, that tie-in, that was really bound up for me and it didn't want to give. And I don't know whether you guys have noticed this, but I've certainly noticed it. I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but some of these really good deadlifters that I've kind of seen in my time, like really, really good deadlifters, some of them have really poor squat mobility. Really, really poor squat mobility. And I think it's because when we are deadlifting, that last portion of the deadlift is all glutes. And if we do a lot of volume in that deadlift kind of hip hinge movement, the glutes kind of, and the whole, like I said, hamstring, adductor, glute tie-in, gets really, really tight. So, we are training hip extension to the max with some of these conventional, I'm talking about conventional, with this conventional deadlifting where we're trying to get that tissue really short and strong. But for squatting, especially ATG, high bar squatting, we want that same tissue that we made tight. We need that same tissue to be really long for us to get into position. It's kind of like the exact opposite stimulus that we're trying to get the body. So we need that tissue, same tissue, to be really, really long and really, really strong for us to squat out of the hole. So it's kind of like, this is where range of motion is really sexy, because it's not just about tight, strong. It's about basically opposites of the spectrum. really, really strong and really, really long. Like that is essentially what strength through the full range of motion looks like. And you can, sing out all these different examples of people who are one or the other, but rarely do you get, not rarely, but the majority of people struggle to get both strength and mobility, flexibility into the same athlete. It's really, really difficult. We see contortionists, we see, yoga chicks and guys who are like freaking, you can park their knee behind their head, no problems. But a lot of these guys can't squat their own body weight. You know what I mean? Like they're really long, but that long tissue is just completely, doesn't have structure and integrity. They're not strong. They're strong in terms of endurance and what the yoga teaches them, but they don't have that force to apply into a bar and lift like somebody that is strong but really kind of lacking that mobility. So it's kind of like combining all these different worlds into one athlete. This is where range of motion, it's a different beast. Like seeing somebody squat ATG 250 kilos, to me, once again, like we're all different. To me, that is more impressive than seeing some guy squat 300 kilos barely to parallel with the bar halfway down his back. I just think to myself, I don't know what that is, man. Like to me, the 250 is so much more impressive. The range of motion, the technique, the mobility, flexibility, the strength, all of that involved is much more impressive to me. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to Bill Higgins. He's the latest name on the Patreon list. Bill, I want to thank you for that, man. Like, you went out of your way to support me on my journey, trying to work out all these things. And I'll continue to voice my thoughts to you guys. Continue to read the comments, continue to interact with you guys, because a lot of this stuff, a lot of these thoughts and a lot of these ideas that I get are from my training, but also from you guys. We're constantly bouncing ideas, and I love that. I really, really love the community. One of you guys said to me, not one of you guys, dozens of you guys have said in the last couple of months, this is the best fitness community out there. Like this YouTube channel, I don't know what it is, man, but I've kind of attracted the right kind of people, to watch these videos and to comment on the videos. It's kind of like, I feel like there's just a whole many people out there like me. It's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, I'll occasionally get one or two guys who just hate on me and whatever. I'm weak, I'm shit, I'm stupid, I should get on a program, all that stuff. All that kind of thing. But the majority of people are supportive no matter what I do, even though you might not be the most optimal. You support me because, like Louis, I'm just passionate, and I'm sure you're passionate about this thing, and that makes us brothers in arms. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.